All right, you grasshoppers, she is back. I know we're a couple minutes late here. I was sitting here holding my breath, like, all right, I'm getting on. I know, is she coming? She's going to show up. I mean, I guess the world would just not be spinning around if you're not here every Tuesday at noon for us. So good to see you, Allie. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much. I'm doing very good. Thank you. I'm fortunate to be very busy. So I'm sorry I was late, but working on good stuff.
We'll let you away with it. So again, in case somebody does not know, Allie Krug, a very good friend of mine now, met her through Bob Pizzini, who was a former Navy officer down in Virginia Beach. We've done some podcasts together. He introduced me to Allie a while ago. It's been 3 or 4 months ago now. Allie's husband is also in the Navy, works on the nuclear ships. Allie has a company, ABC Medical Writing. I have that now. And she has 2 wonderful sons that are champion pull-up experts and good hockey players too. Yeah.
Yes. You always ask for the pull-up report. This time I knew I was better prepared. So my older one, Sam, said 5 pull-ups before dessert this time.
Nice.
And he wanted them right in a row. I thought that was asking for a lot because previously I'd only done 3. So
he wants you to do 5. Oh, okay. Nice.
5 before dessert to earn my dessert. So I decided, okay, well, dessert's important and I'm sure I can muscle through 5 to get dessert. So I did actually, but I take a little break in between them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're chin-ups. I'm technically doing chin-ups, not pull-ups.
Okay.
I did 1 pull-up.
Good. And if everybody doesn't know, Amy is an epidemiologist by trade too, and pretty much knows everything. Smartest person on the planet. She's also a lumberjack. What else are you? Anything else?
Well, really just like anything outdoors and being involved in the community and supporting kids and their parents. This has been a crazy 18 months, hasn't it? So
I know, it's amazing. Isn't it amazing? It's been 18 months. I mean, I remember when it first started. I was so naive thinking that like in 6 months, all of a sudden it's just going to be gone and we'd be back to normal. And man, it's changed. I was going to ask you something right now. You did that article with a couple of your friends who was in the Washington Post, and you got a little bit of pushback on that, right? So basically, I'm probably paraphrasing here. I am paraphrasing that you guys felt, and the data showed that the kids should be back in school without masks on, that there are no more risks than there were with the regular flu. In fact, less risks than regular flu. Is that pretty accurate?
It's pretty accurate. I mean, I keep looking at this data and I find it unfortunate that people who can look at the same data can come away with a different perspective depending on what they strongly believe should be the policy stance. And I think that, anybody who is aware of how statistics can be manipulated to serve a certain end would agree with that we can make data say what we want. But I think the fairest thing when we're communicating to the public is to really provide a balanced perspective of the situation. And fair balance requires me to say that, COVID and flu are both serious for babies 0 to 4 years of age, just like many respiratory infections, not good for little ones with tiny airways, not good for premature infants, even later in life. But on the other hand, COVID can be worse with age. It can be worse for those with obesity, asthma, and diabetes potentially than flu. So I think that there's certain things that make the risk factors possibly a little different between COVID and flu. But when you're looking at big picture like hospitalizations and death across a population, then really the data is suggesting that over a similar period of time, meaning a year, it really add up to almost the same place with respect to hospitalization. So like the easiest way to think about it is the tortoise and the hare. Flu would be the hare. It has a very, steep peak in the winter with transmission, whereas COVID has this kind of slow roll that's consistent over time, even, through the summer, through the spring. It doesn't really have seasonality yet the way we see with flu. Mm-hmm. And we have things that are different between the two. Like flu had a vaccine, for the last decade, and we have about half of our children vaccinated, but the vaccine isn't perfect. So is it comparable to using masks in children, which are not perfect either? It may be. So I just think that there are so many nuances that really should be discussed when you're looking at data like that. But in the unfortunate world of very brief CNN interviews and op-eds that are limited to 800 words, you can only get a certain amount of information through, and nuance really demands that we cover more than what was allowed in that final article. So I appreciate you giving me a chance to kind of clarify that again.
Very cool. Hey, I'm going off topic a little bit right here, but one of our listeners wrote an interesting statement here, and I don't want to put it up on the screen until he tells me it's okay to do it. So Ron Jameson, you posted something there right now. If you want to let me know that it's okay to discuss that topic, I would love to. But again, that's up to you. That's kind of private what you're talking about. So where are we at then? I just read an article where there was some President Biden had a goal by July 4th. There's going to be a certain number of vaccines. They say they're not going to reach that goal. Is that a big deal, or is that just a goal that was randomly thrown out there for someone?
Well, I don't think it was random, but I think, like anytime we pick a number, it feels a little bit random, but 70% was picked as the number, the target number to just, have a goal, right? If you don't measure it and you don't set goals, you're not likely to achieve it, right? Just like in your training and things, right? So you remember where you were at the last time you were in the gym, and then you go for a new goal next time you go into the gym. So, I mean, this goal is informed by the desire to limit transmission and the concept of herd immunity. But I think that the thing that we should remember is that you gain immunity through infection and or vaccines. And I think that we don't really fully understand what proportion of the population has actually been infected already and has natural immunity. So I think that pushing for 70% is a good thing to do, because you'll probably get very good herd immunity, since we're not really able to measure natural immunity quite as well. If you hit 70% vaccination, you have some extra bump from natural immunity on top of that. And we've seen the benefits. We've seen cases come down across the board dramatically. So I think it's worthwhile. Whether or not we actually hit 70% everywhere is not as important to me as, do we have protection for people who are highest risk for hospitalization and severe disease? And in some places, we're probably not getting vaccines out as well as we could. There's access issues, there's convenience issues, there's time issues. Just for instance, in this local area, in say Norfolk City, the vaccine coverage is less than in other areas, and oftentimes vaccine coverage and access to healthcare is lower in places that have lower socioeconomic status. So the very people who need protection against the disease are often the ones who have the hardest time accessing it. So that worries me more than, do we hit 70% across every state, which is really too broad a brush. I want to dial down into the places that need it the most and see what we can do better there, like ice cream truck with vaccines on it, going through neighborhoods. Sure. That's the kind of thing that we need to do to really make it accessible, and also make sure that people have good informed consent about the vaccine and they understand the risks and benefits.
That's a good idea. Like get a big motorhome or something like that, where you can just drive through neighborhoods. Yeah. All right. So here we're getting off topic a little bit, but I'm just something kind of near and dear to my heart. I'm a big supporter of the military, obviously, and I've learned a lot more about mental health issues and everything. So Ron Jameson's a big follower of ours. He's a Navy veteran, and this was a statement he wrote there that I didn't want to disclose until he gave me the okay, and he did. Right. I have PTSD, but refuse at times to ask for help. Listen, obviously, I don't have PTSD. I've never suffered from it, so I don't want to judge. But I think that's something that, and I'd like you to touch on this too, Ali, but especially being in the military family, it's a tough question, especially not limited to men, but men tend to, I think, say, I'm too tough. I don't need to get help, right? I'll deal with it myself. Mm-hmm. Those kind of things, man. Ron, I really encourage you to get all the help you can get. It doesn't mean you're less of a person, less of a man because you're asking for help. And I think that's what we go through sometimes, where you think, well, if I'm asking for help, it makes me look like I'm weak or whatever. Not at all, especially when it comes to mental health, right? It's something that you definitely have to get help for. So, right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a really important point. And I think in particular, as we all move out from, the worry and concern of the pandemic and all of the restrictions and things, previous natural disasters have been studied with respect to PTSD in kids, PTSD due to lockdown and quarantine among kids. And it's not uncommon, unfortunately. And so anybody who understands mental health would say that we should be expecting, basically a surge in PTSD needs over the next, even right now we're seeing it, but certainly as we continue to come out of the pandemic, oftentimes people gut through a difficult time, they get through it, and then the greatest need is after the crisis eases. So right now, this would not be an unusual time to say, hey, gosh, I don't know how how I got through all that and I'm still feeling the effects of it. Talk to your primary care doctor if you have one, and start to get some help there. Primary care doctors can be very good at addressing the body as a whole, really, looking at body and mind. And I have a very good friend I want to bring on to your show, Tom, next week to talk about this, because she would be much better at it. Dr. Lucy McBride. has an awful lot of material that she's putting out on COVID and also the intersection between body and mind. And she's a lovely and very optimistic person. So she'll be a bright light next week if I can get her on as her schedule permits.
That'd be fantastic. And again, I've touched on this before. You and I have discussed this before. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and that's it's not a big deal, but to me, that disorder word kind of gives. I guess there is technically something wrong, but it's not. That's the reason I'd like to take the disorder out of it. It's a post-traumatic stress, right? But I understand why it's there. But
yeah, I mean, I think the disorder is there because we like to assign metrics to things. We like to measure just how bad things are. But I mean, probably lots of people who have PTSD have good days and bad days, and people who have not yet been diagnosed with PTSD have good days and bad days. So one of the most important things that you can keep doing, whether or not you've been diagnosed, if you are feeling down and have low motivation, you can pick a routine and try to make yourself stick to it, whether or not you feel like doing it. And just the very act of getting out and moving or talking to somebody will help, even if you don't really want to and you don't really feel like it. The data says that is true. So just get out there and try.
So particularly in the military, there's a lot of it. It's not limited to the military community, but so say a veteran like Ron goes and gets help from the military is pretty good about treating the veterans with PTSD, right? There's a lot of resources for them.
Yes, there is. I'm not very well trained in exactly what resources there are, but I would imagine that there's quite a few places to start, just on the internet. And I don't know what his particular situation is, but definitely start with primary care doc. There's telemedicine. There's psychiatrists who can prescribe medications. There's psychologists who can help with behavioral approaches, kind of like I was just describing, getting into an activity, picking a routine. I wanted to talk to you, Tom, about sleep. I don't normally wear a watch, but my best friend gave me this watch because she's a runner, and we used to run together in Japan. And she got a watch to kind of track all of her, heart rate and steps and everything. And it actually tracks your sleep too. And I was just doing some research yesterday on the importance of REM sleep and depression. So, just a good place to start is good sleep hygiene. Get into a sleep routine. Make sure you're getting at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And just for a week, see if that can help modify mood and response to stress, because it is really, really critical. Sleep Foundation has a lot of information out there.
That's why it is important to like getting out and moving, getting fresh air, exercising, eating properly. So then you'll have a better sleep, right? And then you're better rested in the morning. Then the whole, like you said, now the whole pattern now gets better and better. You've had that better night's sleep.
Yeah. It's a whole package. And sometimes it might be good to do some exercise before going to bed. I find that I get a little bit wound up exercising before bed. But some people it might help purge the day and just recalibrate all those hormones.
That's interesting how you talk about the routine and the pattern. Like for me, I'm so into my routine now, up at 3:30 or out the door at 3, and actually I had a former teammate, he'd watch my videos that I go out, at 3:54 or whatever in the morning. And he said to me, we did a show together, great guy, Jim Thompson. And he said to me that he had lived in a house, the address, it was actually a trailer that he lived in when he was a kid. And the address was 353, whatever the street was. So he says, can you please try to get out there at 3:53? Or he's saying, like, I keep waiting for you to get out at 3:53. So now I've made a point now trying as best I can to get out there at 3:53. So another part of the routine. It's funny how like the routine has taken on a life. There's a reason for the routine, right? So I'm up at 3:30, make the bed perfect because I watched that video of Admiral William McRaven, the Navy SEAL Admiral. And now out at 3:53 because Jim Thompson asked me to try to, so I'm now aware of all this. And then I get out the door at 4:15 to get to the gym. There's a certain pattern. So it does it really. When I get rarely I take a day off, and I feel like my body will need a day off maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks. And when I do take a day off, it's like, what's going on? I'm lost. Like I'm not on my routine anymore. It's pretty funny.
I know. Speaking of routines, there's other things that you can do. If anyone is having some trouble reacclimating to life and looking for a way to set up good habits of mind and habits of body, martial arts are something that I found really helpful in managing stress and just managing focus. And I think that there's lots of different martial arts out there. There's ones that are, full combat and with armor. And then there's others that are very breathing regulated and very independent and very personal. I'm thinking of Tai Chi, but there are many others. You could look into doing that because the more that would work on the breathing patterns, which also helps regulate stress, and it trains the mind with focus. It sets up a pattern.
Well, Well, and if that is really a problem, Ron, for me, I find myself, because I'm up so early, and excuse me, especially when I'm working from home, I find myself, if feel like I need to take a nap, I go out for a walk. And, now you get the energy going again, get some music going or whatever your ears get going. Yeah.
Hey, Ron, you might also check in with your doctor and just look into some other reasons for daytime sleepiness that might be curious to check out. Like, is your sleep quality at night really that good? If it's not that good at night because of sleep apnea or something else, then you're going to be more tired during the day. Sure. If you don't have anything else to blame, then I suggest 10 burpees on the hour every hour.
Yeah, you're right. Do push-ups or burpees or something like that. Yeah, you're right. All right, so we're going to change topics here again, and this isn't something we usually talk about, but I thought this was really interesting. I don't know if it was on the front page of USA Today, but Carl Nassib, football player, I think for the Minnesota Vikings, came out. I don't know where he's playing. I'll find out here, but came out and acknowledged that he was openly gay. And to me, it shouldn't even really be an issue, but it's interesting that he had to make a statement about it, right? That he had to come out, and so he's the first. I don't think he's the first professional athlete, but certainly the first football player that has come out and acknowledged that he's gay. So pretty brave thing, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, football is a pretty tough sport, really macho sport. And for him to come out and discuss that, I think the big thing for me is not only will it help so many other kids or other people who are out there that are saying, this guy acknowledged in a sport like football that he's gay, so I can come out and be comfortable that I'm gay, not just come out, because you really don't have to get anybody else's approval that you're gay. If you're gay, you're gay. It's just that, mm-hmm. feel like you have to hide it all the time. So I thought that was pretty brave of him to do that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Another thing that children are struggling with, young adults are struggling with right now is gender dysmorphia. And, that's just another opportunity to have conversations with your kids about the difficulty of relating to others and finding your tribe and figuring out how you fit and, just recognizing maybe, being open about your own personal experience, perhaps. Like I shared with a teenager who was over visiting this weekend that actually I didn't fit in all that well in high school. And I thought the solution, I didn't think about it this concretely, but the solution I arrived at was changing my body, and that was anorexia. And it really didn't actually solve any of my issues. Only maturity solved my issues, and a realization that, we're all, as adolescents, relatively immature, and you shouldn't gauge your self-worth as an adolescent by the reactions of others to you. That will come with time, and really just need to take care of yourself and continue pursuing things that are of interest and passionate to you. Contribute to the world, focus on getting involved in your community, figuring out how you'd like to contribute to this world, and know that it will take time for people to really appreciate you sometimes for who you are. And you don't necessarily need to make radical changes in order to achieve that end state, because it may not actually transpire within the province of adolescence and young adulthood. It may take a decade. So just give things time.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of laugh at myself sometimes. I was invited to go to represent the New York Rangers at a Juneteenth celebration in Brooklyn. And, I knew what Juneteenth was, but luckily I went online and really studied it more to see the meaning of it. And it was a great event to go to, because obviously there was a large Black community there. There wasn't too many white people there, and I was there, and I got interviewed on local radio or TV station, and I had to get to speak in front of everybody. And it was a real eye-opener for me to see how much it meant, like for me to be there as a white man and show that I really cared about the celebration. And I spoke publicly and I talked on the TV station. People were coming up to me and really, a couple of women came up and they had the native kind of garb on. They were dancing in the whole bit. I posted a picture of them. They were really nice. They were like, it means so much to us that you're here and everything like that. And it was really an eye-opener for me. It was one of those events where I walked away going, wow, I really learned a lot from being at that event. Yeah. Being around those people and see what it means. It's nice to read about it online or whatever, but actually I wasn't living it, but it was just to listen to them and how they felt about it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's really special. I always have this perception that I just feel so fortunate when, America has a lot of different cultures embedded within this great patchwork quilt of a country that we have. And I think it's interesting that you can almost be an expat within your own country if you extend yourself and go experience a different way of viewing the world. And I always feel so fortunate when I'm welcomed by a group of people that has a very different culture and worldview than I might. I feel so lucky.
Yeah, that is true, right? Yeah, it is funny. Like first, you're like, you think to yourself, well, what am I going to do there? Well, you're going to learn. You're going to learn somebody else's culture.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, totally.
It's totally enriching.
Yeah, especially like the little kids were coming out, it was ball hockey. So they didn't know how to hold a stick or anything like that. They were kind of nervous. You could see they were kind of, and once they got going on it, they loved it, right? It was like one of those things. And now you've opened up these kids' eyes to something else that they may not have had in their community. So it was pretty, I never saw the picture too. There's former Nick was there. Him and I have done a few events together. There's John Wallace. And he's a pretty big man. He must be 6'10" at least or something. I'm about 6'10".
I saw that picture. It was not the angle of the lens was an interesting angle, but holy cow.
Yeah, I think it was partly the angle made it look even worse, but I looked really small next to him, so I didn't realize that.
Tiny Tom.
Oh, I know. Funny, when I saw that picture, I was dying laughing because, most cases I'm taller or at least tall as everybody else. So it was good.
Well, I wonder if basketball is actually fun for anybody who's really that tall, because then you're like, you don't even have to jump, do you? I don't know.
I guess, yeah.
Okay. No challenge.
He's a great guy too. This John Wallace. Everybody knows him at all. He's got 5 kids. It was the day before Father's Day and everything, so we were kind of laughing about that. It was a lot of fun. Yes.
That's awesome.
So are you doing any more workouts in the parking lot, or where are we at?
Yeah, actually tonight is pond hockey, so it'll be another parking lot workout.
Nice.
And we'll have to see if we're all assigned to the same teams, if I can get any more people out doing it.
So here's what Allie's all about. So now, so the mothers can't go in the rink, right? When the kids are playing hockey.
No, we can go in the rink. It was just, the kids are outside changing in the outdoor locker room. And so we were just kind of killing time waiting for them to change.
So instead of Allie just sitting around doing nothing, she gets everybody together. She runs a little calisthenics class out there, push-ups and jumping jacks and all this kind of stuff. That's cool. I love that.
Flutters. Yeah, Tom, next time you have skates on, try doing flutters with your skates on. They're kind of killer. I'm sure you can, though.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Ron Jameson, he's a good guy here. He's listening to our conversation here. I help coach inner city kids. That's fantastic. That's very rewarding, because to take time to coach any kids, but the inner city kid, a game of hockey too is pretty important to him. So, yeah.
Where is that, Ron? Where are you?
I think he's up in Buffalo. I'm pretty sure he's in Buffalo. Yeah. He listens to our show on Thursday afternoon too, where we have all the former players on, and we get going to each other. And it's gotten better and better over the past few weeks, where the people listening have written in more and more comments too. So we're giving it to each other pretty good. This guy Larry Melnick's really funny. Yeah, Ron's from Buffalo, so he's a Buffalo State fan. Yeah, poor man.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I really want to see an outdoor. So the rink that that I'm affiliated with, they're looking at building a brand new rink through the Warrior for Life Foundation. And that would be 2 sheets of ice. But I was thinking, gosh, wouldn't it be great if Virginia Beach had an outdoor rink? So maybe they could take the roof off the existing rink and somehow turn that into an outdoor rink. That would obviously be expensive here, but.
You know what? You can actually, it's actually less expensive now. They have these systems set up where you can go like let's say a tennis court or anything like that isn't being used during the winter. I don't know if it is not there or any place, a parking lot or whatever. And they have rinks, like portable rinks. So they put the boards up. And I know in the past, it was like $250,000. It wasn't a whole lot of money for a municipality to do it. And again, they had the refrigeration system underneath and everything. So even on warmer days, you could still have the ice. I think that's a fantastic idea for kids, and make it a place where it's almost like a pond, right? Where the kids can, obviously you want to have supervision so they don't get hurt. But make it so that it's like instead of being so structured, just go play. If it's like 9 guys on one team and 8 on another, and just go at it and do whatever you want to do. And I think that's a fantastic idea. Yeah.
Did you do that when you were growing up in Canada? Yes. Did you have pond hockey pickup games like near you? Did you like literally just drive over and?
Yeah. Well, we had a pond in our backyard. So when it froze over, the best was that in a field, we had a field that was kind of lower in the middle. So it would snow, the snow would melt one day and then it would freeze again. So it would freeze and become a pretty nice pond, but they'd also have little spots of grass that were sticking up. So you'd think, well, geez, that's no good. But it's actually better because now you had the stick handle, you had stick handle around the weeds.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
But we did that. I was very fortunate, and I've said this many times. I played with Wayne Gretzky, Larry Robinson, Phil Esposito, all these great legendary players, and they all talked about how the best time and the most thing they'd learned was from being out on a pond, just playing with their buddies. They'd play forever. They'd love it. Their feet would freeze. Come home and put your feet in front of the fire. They start burning, like tingling, because it's all they're frozen before. But yeah, it's a great experience for kids. It's just how it is. The kids are always getting taught, right? They're getting taught in class. Coaches are coaching. That's their job. They're supposed to teach them. But to be able to just go do something and not have anybody tell them what to do, just figure it out for yourself. And if it doesn't work, no big deal. Nobody gets hurt on it. So. Yeah.
Do you think that they actually figure out how to use the ice and do systems hockey on their own? Have you ever seen that?
Totally. I think it's the kids learn so much more when you just let them go play and not worry about it all the time. They learn like a give and go. And usually when you're playing pong hockey, it isn't just 5 people too. And it isn't just like you spread out. You don't worry about offsides or icings. You just go play. And yeah, if you try things, like sometimes kids don't want to try things because they're going to make a mistake. And then the coach is going to yell at them. They're going to get put on the bench. Try something. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And that's how they get better at it. They realize, okay, I tried it then. Like, again, I keep mentioning these names, but Wayne Gretzky and Larry Robinson, 2 guys, particular that I played with, they were the best at going out there, trying to do something, having it not work, and then go right back out there again and do the same thing all over again. Now, obviously, they were great players and knew that they were going to continue to put on the ice, but they had that mentality. It didn't matter. They weren't embarrassed. They said, no, I'm going to try it again. I'm going to make this thing work. They had that kind of stubbornness, bullheadedness to them. Just because it didn't work this time, I'm going to make it work next time. And that's what made them great players. So
that's amazing. And Gretzky was really wonderful at setting up plays, wasn't he? Like more points from assists than even from goals, if I recall.
Yeah, really creative, trying things like he would do things like when he didn't play against him all the time. So when I was out in New York and he was in Edmonton, we didn't see him as much. So when he played against him and he'd make a great play, you go, nah, he was lucky on that play. Then you go out there and I obviously get to play with him and see him every day. There's no luck involved. It's like he just had this, and it was like, again, I don't think he was given some special gift, like he wasn't given a magic pill when he's a baby to be a great player. It was more in his mind. Like he wanted to be the best player that ever played. And like I tell everybody all the time, he and I have something in common. That we both accomplished our goals. My goal was to play in the NHL. His goal was to be the best player that ever played in the NHL. And we both accomplished that, right? It's just, I learned a lot from that. And I say that to kids now, like, don't limit yourself to anything. Don't put some artificial limits on how great you want to be. If you're going to do something, go all out and be the best at it that's ever done it. Doesn't mean you're always going to be successful, but he was special, yeah.
What is your feeling about cross-training and kids playing multiple sports and stuff? I think a lot of times kids and maybe even families feel like they really need to keep working at hockey constantly in order to improve. But I do know that there's some players who, did play multiple sports and were drafted by the NHL and are very good players. So what are your thoughts on that?
Interesting. I just did a show yesterday with Mark Puttendick, a trainer of mine who coaches a lot of hockey. We had that very topic, and we both agreed, listen, kids, we understand what happens. So what happens, especially now, hockey's turned into a little bit of business, youth hockey, where coaches are getting paid, and they're not necessarily bad people, but they're getting paid to coach, and it becomes their full-time job. So they want to coach all year long and get these kids better. The parents then feel like, well, geez, I have to have my son or daughter playing all year long because when they go to training camp to be picked for a team, they're going to be behind the other players if they haven't skated all summer, which is true. But a lot of teams now they'll have their training camp or their, where they go to pick players for the teams after the season is done. So not at the start of the season, they do it after the season is done with other players. I think, and I like that because now the player can go play some other sport and not worry about being behind everybody else. And I think there's so many advantages. I think, like for me, when I played, we'd play box lacrosse during the summer. So we'd hang up the skates. We wouldn't skate again. Maybe go to a hockey camp during the summer, but more often not pick up the skates again until the following hockey season. And then now you had that passion, like you missed it. I loved hockey, and I was playing lacrosse, so I was busy. And now I was passionate. I couldn't wait to get my skates back on again. I had a drive to play again. And I also think it's like whether it's another sport or maybe you're playing a musical instrument or something else that builds your mind and your body, your hand-eye coordination. If you're playing tennis or whatever, it may help you with hockey because you increase your hand-eye coordination, your conditioning. So I think it's crucial and I understand the dilemma, but I think it's great for kids to play multiple sports and try different things.
Yeah. I think so too. I think what you mentioned about bringing a fresh mind to it and a fresh energy to it is one way that you improve your ability because you're just more excited about actually trying things and working hard every practice. If it becomes something that you do all year, it's hard to keep that freshness and commitment, that exertion, at 100% or more, So I think overall the net gain might be better if you come back to it with a renewed perspective. Not that you lose shape because you're obviously cross-training in a different sport. But you bring back more flexibility and maybe more coordination and maybe even some different ways of thinking.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. I think it's fantastic for you. All right. So how far did you run today? Would you get like 10 miles in this morning? Or?
I didn't get to go yet. I didn't get to go. So after I talk to you, I am going to be uploading. This is very exciting. Our final final submission marked up copy for the British Journal of Sports Medicine, and it will be a paper on hockey that was accepted for publication. So really excited about that. Yeah.
Congratulations. My book's just about done now too. We've got the final stages of getting that done, getting the blurbs. We're going to self-publish on Amazon, so it should be done the next couple of weeks here too. So.
Oh, you're self-publishing. Very good.
Yeah. Awesome. I think I've told you before, that was one of the best experiences I've ever had. And I recommend to everybody to write a book, even if you don't plan on publishing it. I had a writer, a friend of mine, and he was key in it too, David Seegerman. And he forced me, like I would tell a story about something that I did or something that happened along the way. And then we kind of analyze, okay, well, why did you act that way? What from your past taught you to how to get through it or whatever? And it really turned out to be a real motivational book. And I like it because you don't have to read from start to finish. You can grab a chapter, and it's a lesson in each chapter, something that's happened to me and how
Wow. So that takes a lot of talent. Your co-writer or editor there really did a wonderful job pulling that out of you and then putting it all together. That's a lot of work.
I didn't even realize what was happening when it was going on. It's like partway through the book, I'm thinking like it made me look back to my father and grandfather more and how without even talking to me about things, just the way they lived their life. That's how now I live my life. You know, like I say, I was never the most talented hockey player in any team I was on. I was never the smartest guy in the room when I was an agent. But I just showed up every day, and that's my father and grandfather showing up every day and milking the cows, and that's where I got it. It was good. Yeah, it makes me more aware of how I am, the way I am, and just kind of like I like myself better now. I think because I guess that's why I'm the way I am. Yeah. So.
That's good. But I think you have a kind of generosity that is, developing and growing over time with your desire to learn from what your experiences have been and try to support and help other people. And you really could not have come at a better time with the pandemic being such a, kind of morale crusher in so many ways. I mean, it takes a few people who are just blindly optimistic and, structured and, committed to living life in a healthy way to be like, okay, I can do this today.
It's funny you say that, blindly optimistic. I like that statement. I also use the one thoroughly blissful ignorance, right? I don't know. I'm going to go do it. I don't care, right?
This may be a bad idea, but kind of like me catapulting pumpkins. Some things you just really should not think too hard about. Sometimes you pay the price.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I've looked back, like I've told the story, I think, when I was trying out for the Canadian Olympic team in 1980. And I went to training camp out in Calgary, and the first night we were there, a few of us decided to go and have a few adult beverages. And then we decided we were going to put the furniture from the TV room out on the trainer's car at like 2 or 3 in the morning. And then I figured I'd take it a step further, and I'd announce to the trainer that we did this, thinking this is really a funny joke. The next morning, the head of Hockey Canada came out with a plane ticket and put it in my hand and said, "You're going home, son." And I think back about that, how stupid that was, and how much of I missed an opportunity to be in the Olympics. But it drove me that following season. It was coming up my senior year in college to just the best I could be. And we ended up, our team was ranked number 1 in the country and everything. So bad idea, terrible idea of what I did, but I did something about it. I made a mistake, a youthful mistake. It's stupid. I wouldn't. My sons do it. I'd want to strangle them if they did it. But that's what it happened. I couldn't do about it. So now I had to make the most of it. So
and the key there obviously is that you took that experience and you used that to fuel something different, right?
Yes.
And I think that a lot of us dwell in self-recrimination for too long. And don't take the opportunity to just, all right, put it in a box. That was that, and I'm going to do something different now. And I think that's an important thing.
Yeah, a thoroughly blissful ignorance. We love it.
That's just terrible, though, Tom.
Oh, I know.
1980, and what a year!
Oh, I know. Oh, God. And I was so cocky too. I left again. We started the hockey program. My freshman year's first year they had the team, so it's now going into my senior year. Where we got better and better all the time. I was one of the captains. I was like, well, I won't be coming home. I'm going to make the team. And not only did I not make the team when coming home, I had to tell everybody why I got sent home. So it's just like, oh God, my parents are looking at me like, what are you thinking about that? So thoroughly blissful.
Moving furniture.
yeah, I thought I was going to be moving man. That's right. Yeah. All right, great show. We'll see you next week, Allie. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.